All right, guys, welcome to our, we're gonna come up with a good name at some point, but our bi-weekly just agency webinar. We're revamped this and are doing it a little bit differently because we want to make sure that we're getting, information out to people, keeping you updated with, things going on with Family First Life, with FFL Capital, with Integrity, and, sharing best practices that, company-wide and industry-wide are going on. And we also want to make sure we're updating you on, important things that are coming out, important trainings that are coming out, and, sharing, again, what people are doing best. Thank you all for tuning in today, and hopefully you get a lot out of, what we're going to go through. And we'll try to make it different and unique every week so it's not a boring, monotonous thing that you tune into just because you have to, but because you want to be here. So thanks for being on. All right, guys. So this is our carrier highlight section, and today I have Marty Evans joining me today to go over Ethos and some of the things they're offering. And I'll just say, I'll get out of your way, Marty, but it's been a great partnership with Ethos so far from what you guys have done with, the leads, not to steal your thunder, but building a product that it's for FFL. All of us put a lot of work into that, and it's super exciting. And, I'm just happy to partner with you guys. So I'd love for you to, take the next 5, 7, maybe 10 minutes if you got some really good stuff to go over, what that IUL launch is going to be like, and how Ethos is a value add for our agents, and, what the partnership has looked like for you guys. So I appreciate it, and I will get out of your way.
Sure thing. Thanks so much for having me on. I know that we've been working with you all for almost a year now, and it's just been a blast. But surprisingly, there's still a good number of people that aren't really comfortable with Ethos. So I'm just going to start with a recap of who we are, what we do, and then I'm going to talk about some recent updates, and then I'll wrap up with that IUL we're so excited about. So to get started, what is Ethos and how do you use Ethos? Well, the good news is if you've received a single text message or email from us, you're already contracted with Ethos. So that's one thing that many agents I speak with, they don't realize that they already have the power of this, game-changing technology at their fingertips. So you're already contracted with Ethos. All you got to do is go to agents, that's agents plural, agents.ethoslife.com, and you'll be able to log into your portal. There's no passwords. It's just your phone or your email address, and you'll be able to hop in. So takeaway number one, you're already contracted. Number two, what exactly can Ethos bring to your business? Well, you get access to 4 carriers that you currently don't have access to, with 8 more products. And this large buy box gives you as an agent the opportunity to cover over 95% of your applicants. So Ethos is a technology tool that allows you to cover just more people with no medical exams. So it's a 10-minute application, no medical exams, just answering health and lifestyle questions that can get your families protected instantly. Over 90% of our policies are instant issuance. And so as long as you've got a phone, a tablet, laptop, desktop, you name it, if someone can get on the internet, you as an agent can log into your portal, send your link, or maybe post your link on your social media. If anyone clicks that link and starts an application through your link, as long as we get, name, email, or social security number, whether they finish the application on the spot, they finish it later, our sales team reaches out to get your clients across the finish line. No matter how they finish it, if they come through your door and they bind coverage, you get paid. It's that simple. So we're really trying to solve many of these pain points for agents of how hard it can be to get people covered, and for clients that want an easy self-service type experience, or if an agent wants to walk them through, but they want to keep it all digital with no paperwork, Ethos is the way to go. So hopefully that demystifies a bit of just what we are, how we work, and what we do. And as a younger tech-enabled startup, we really take feedback as quickly as you can give it to us. So we've been iterating on the product literally week by week. And so a couple of those recent updates I wanted to share. We've got a brand new earnings view in the agent portal. So some of the feedback we got from a lot of agents was, how do I know not only how much I made, but how much my downlines made, and if there are any chargebacks coming? We know that one of the biggest takeaways from the summer sales convention and just the business in general is how important it is to set aside 30% of your commissions for future chargebacks or things that are going to come your way, so you're not in over your head with debt. Well, we heard that feedback. We incorporated it. So really quickly, as a manager or as an agent yourself, you can quickly see what chargebacks you have coming your way. We also are updating the actual website itself. So you can schedule and book appointments with Calendly or Google Calendar directly from the website that comes from that link that you can send. So we know booking those presentations is huge, can be a bottleneck. We want to make it even easier for agents to be able to knock out. And then finally, as you mentioned, this IUL that we're rolling out it's got all of us excited, especially because we've literally built this for you all. We don't take it lightly how great it is to be able to have the opportunity to earn your business and your agent's business and trust. And so taking the feedback of what products they really wanted, what features they wanted, what tech opportunities that we can enable to make it as easy as possible, again, for agents and clients to be able to use this product, has us just stoked. In terms of timeline, that will be coming out later this summer. What's very important, so if there are, three things to take away. One is you're contracted. Two, how easy it is to use Ethos. And then three, make sure you complete your pre-contracting paperwork. So you'll get a text, you'll get an email that says to look out for this SureLC Ethos Emeritus pre-contracting paperwork. We want you to be able to hit the ground running the moment we launch this. So make sure to get signed up if you aren't already. And we just look forward to, as I said, growing to earn more of your business. So that's really all I got. But if anyone has any questions or needs anything, you can reach out to me directly. It's just Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at getethos.com. So remember, you can't have a party without Marty. So just hit me up and I'll make sure to get you set up.
That's awesome. Hey, and then for the contracting, I think what we decided this morning was if people didn't get the email, like if someone's newer watching this, or they just joined FFL and they have sold IUL, or they just want to sell the IUL, because it's gonna be pretty cool where it goes up to $1 million, instant decision, and good comp. Compared to IUL is really good comp. So they can email nick.taylor, Taylor, at getethos.com if they did not receive contracting.
We'll get you set up.
Yeah. So you don't have to bug Marty for contract. You can bug Nick. And he'll figure out what to do with all those emails. But we really look forward to it. I think it's going to be that product's going to be great for us from a recruiting standpoint, and for it's going to be crazy competitively priced. It goes up to $1 million, like we said. So I'm super excited about it, as you know, and I think that we're going to have a great launch with it. So looking forward to it, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing in this partnership, Marty.
Awesome. Yeah. And if any agency owners, any managers want to have, a smaller session where we can walk you through and show you how to use the tool, that's another good way to hit up me or Nick. So it's Marty at getethos.com or nick.taylor at getethos.com. We have been rolling out many, trainings with smaller sessions. We can answer questions, but really just want to grow with you. So thanks again for having me. And I hope everyone has a good rest of their summer.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, this is our simplified issue, straight life insurance, mortgage protection, final expense, term, sales segment. I have Mahmood on with me. Mahmood, you helped 600 families last year?
Yeah, just under
600 families last year, and are on pace to do more than that this year, or at least the same, right?
Yes, sir.
And then, so last year was all pretty much in-home. This year, all telesales, which I actually like, because telesales have been great for us. It's been, very scalable, and you're starting to grow a great team doing that as well. So I wanted to have you on to talk about, just to give everyone a few, word tracks, tips, things they can say, as newer agents or as agents that are trying to get better. And then before we jump into that, I'd love for you to kind of run through what your schedule looks like so that people have the right perspective on, dial days, how much work you put in, and then we can go into the specific, sales tactics and stuff that you do. But break down kind of what your days look like to help. Do you think you average 50 families helped a month right now, somewhere in that range?
Yeah.
So you're helping about 50 families a month, so about 15 a week, right? So what does your schedule look like, to hit those kind of numbers? And then we'll go into some actual specific sales training after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on again. Something about schedule, whether I realized it was in-home or telesales, whatever it is, you have to be setting and sticking to a set and consistent schedule. When I was in homes, I was booking appointments Monday and Thursday from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. most days. And I was in the field from, 8 to 8. Now it's a little different with telesales. I'm starting my days a little later, right around like 9 a.m., but I'm on the phones all day. I might take a 30-minute, an hour lunch break at most around like 12, 2 o'clock, depending on how the morning's going. And then from there, I'm on the phones until 7, 8 p.m. most days. And I feel like just sticking to that set schedule helps me out a ton. And being on the telesales, uh, staying in a Zoom where you can be held accountable with the team is super, super helpful as well.
Yeah, I think to your point, having somewhere to plug in, like in the beginning, it was always a physical office. Now, you can do the same thing over Zoom. It makes a massive difference to build that camaraderie and also have people to hold you accountable and pick up stuff from, right? Like good habits from other people that are doing well. I think that's crazy important. So, um, one thing I love about you is your sales training has always been super transparent, and you're always very like you're never the person that will like stretch the truth at all to get a sale. You like, I just rather take the good one, and then if it's not an easy sale, I'm just not going to sell it to them, which I think is important to do because you have good persistency, right? So, um, for you're predominantly running just general life insurance type leads from social media, Facebook, right? At
Yeah,
this point,
primarily Facebook.
cool. Why don't you give everyone, kind of structure as far as what it looks like? You get someone on the phone, whether you send them a text, they call you, or whether you call them, how does that initial conversation go? Like kind of, on average, how would it go? And then how do you transition that into an appointment right away? What does that sound like?
Yeah. So all my leads, I hand dial them the day after they come in.
Mhm.
And I'm just hand dialing them 2, 3 dials in a row until they pick up. And anyone I'm calling, I have the intention that I'm gonna call to close them. Unless they're either working or on the road, my intention is for them to grab a paper and a pen so we can go over the eligibility. So, I mean, that's something that I seen with the telesales was super important is just like the first 30 seconds to 60 seconds of the call and how crucial it is.
So
And
what does that 30 seconds sound like usually?
yeah, so just like everyone's always said, you want to sound super monotone, you want to sound as far as away from a salesperson, but you want to sound as professional at the same time. So I'm not doing anything different. So like, for example, I'll just call you. Hey, Zach.
Yep.
Hey, Zach, this is Nasser. I'm just calling you from the benefits right here in Kentucky. Just wanted to let you know we got that request you submitted for the state final expense programs. I was just the medical underwriter here assigned to your file today. And then just to confirm, you put your date of birth January 5th, 1995. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. So, Zach, my job's super simple. I'm just the one that goes over the eligibility with you and sees what all you do qualify for the discounted programs. Now, are you at home where you're able to grab a paper and pen so you can take down my credentials, Zach?
Yeah, I'm at home. I can
Perfect.
grab that stuff.
Just let me
What
know
what do
whenever
you
you're
do
ready.
if they say they're not home? What do you do at that point?
I just
Like,
say, oh, no worries. Yeah. So I just tell them, oh, no worries. When's going to be a better time where you'd be at home and you have about 20, 30 minutes?
cool. So if they're at work or they're driving or whatever, then you're not going further. You're going up. Oh, you'll be home in 30 minutes. Okay, cool. I'll call you then. And you just end the
Exactly.
call at that point.
Exactly. And for
Cool.
those appointments, something I noticed with telesales is the show rate's not as high for telesales.
Yeah.
Same. So I like to, if I can book 2, 3 at the same time, I will. Or I just look at it as, hey, at least I know their schedule for tomorrow. I know that they're gonna be home after work at 5 every day. If he doesn't answer today, I can call him tomorrow.
So you're trying to same day set them if you can.
Hmm.
Okay. So I go, yep, I'm home. I can take down your stuff, ready. Then how do you transition into the appointment from there?
Yeah, so I have him write down my name, write down Nasser, and I always say something like N as in NASCAR or N as in Nancy,
Hmm.
ASSER. I have him write down my DOI ID number, and I tell him DOI, that's abbreviated for Department of Insurance ID number. And then I read it off to him and I have him repeat it back to me.
Hmm.
And then once I know it's correct, I tell him, okay, so Zach, that right there is just like a work social security number. That's how I'm able to get identified as a licensed and active professional that's been appointed. And you can confirm that on the state website. And any website has it. You can literally just Google, for instance, like Kentucky DOI lookup or
Hmm.
life insurance agent lookup, and any state will pop up real quick. Just give them that, and I promise you 99.9% of the time, they're not going to look it up.
Yeah, got it. And then okay, I got all your stuff written down. Then you just go. So I read it back to you, and then you jump into the appointment from there.
Yeah, like I'm digging into the why before I tell you what we're doing today. I want to know
Cool.
why you're on the phone. Like, hey, so Zach, was your main concern, like most families, just wanted to make sure your burial or cremation's covered, or were you wanting to cover anything else? And then I just listen real quick.
Yeah, I mean that's such a strong statement, right? Was your main concern, like most families, you just want burial covered or cremation covered, or did you need something else? And then most people probably say, yeah, I just want to make sure my burial and final expenses were covered, right?
Perfect. Just like everybody else. That's why most families send this request in. And then from there, that's when I go into setting the structure and letting them know what it looks like.
Got it. And then what does the structure look like? So like I guess structure point number one would be like, what's your main concern? You know, who's going to be responsible, and you figure out who would have to pay for their burial if something happened to them. Number two, what's the next step of your presentation look like?
So setting the structure and the expectations. So
Mhm.
whenever I figure out that why, I'm gonna say perfect. What I'm looking at right here in front of me is the client suitability sheet. And then you'll hear how I word this. I try to get some objections out the way already. So
Yeah.
we're going to spend about a minute or so on yourself and financial situation, Zach. That way we make sure we do look at the right amount of coverage for you, and we make sure whatever plan you customize is going to be affordable and within the budget, because that's going to be the most important thing. And typically we don't have a problem with that because these are designed for fixed and low income earners. Okay. And then, Zach, we're going to spend about 2 minutes on your health. That's just going to help me navigate which one of the 30 A-rated carriers is going to give you the approval today for the best benefit. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Perfect. Now, coverage-wise, Zach, have you ever thought about if you wanted to be buried or cremated?
Probably buried. So I was thinking.
Yeah, that's how my family is. Now, Zach, God forbid something happens to you today. Who's picking up the pieces tomorrow?
My wife,
Gotcha. And her name?
Deborah.
Okay, same last name. Now,
Hmm.
were you just looking for coverage for yourself today or for the both of you?
Yeah, just for me.
Okay, gotcha. Now, Zach, do you know how much a burial costs nowadays here in the state?
15,000 maybe.
Yeah, so you hit it right on the head. It really just depends on a few factors, mainly being the fanciness, elegance, opening and closing, the casket, what all gets done. But the average here in the state as of today, it's going to be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. Again, just depending on what all gets done. Now, Zach, do you have any type of life insurance in place right now that's going to offset the cost of that burial for you and Deborah?
No, I don't have anything, no savings or anything set up.
Okay, gotcha. Now, Zach, what's the main reason you don't have any life insurance in place? Is it just affordability or eligibility?
I just have procrastinated it. I just haven't done it yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely. What kind of got you looking in and getting coverage now? Did you have someone recently pass on you, or?
Yeah, my wife just told me I needed to do it, so I'm
No,
doing it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, so your main concern for this plan, do you just want to cover your burial, Zach, or did you want to leave extra money behind for the wife as well?
Um, just cover the burial and maybe if I have any budget left over, could leave some money, but mostly just the burial.
Okay, absolutely. And then you just mentioned a budget there, and like I had mentioned earlier, that's the most important thing is affordability. So to make sure that your burial is covered and we leave the wife extra money, Zach, just so I can properly serve you, what
Mhm.
is something that is affordable for you every month? You know, whether you get a flat tire on the truck or Christmas rolls around, what's something you can comfortably allocate in a plan like this?
Probably need to keep it under $100 a month.
Okay, absolutely. So just so we're on the same page here, Zach, we want to make sure your burial's covered. You want to leave some extra money behind for the wife, and we want to stay below $100. Is that correct?
Yes, that sounds right. Yep.
Perfect. So I'm gonna go into the eligibility now, Zach, and I'm gonna try to cover all that and stay below that $100 a month. Okay.
Okay, that works.
And then from there, just go into the health or their income, name. I like another key thing I like to do in the presentation. So I'll figure out after I get the why, I'll go into yourself, confirm the birthday, working, retired, or disabled. Most of the people we talk to for final expense are retired or disabled. I like to say something like, hey, so how much, a rough estimate, how much you collect a month from the Social Security? And then, okay, now every month for your Social Security, Zach, does that go into a local bank here in town? Or is it one of the state issued direct express cards?
Local bank.
Absolutely. Gotcha. The reason I asked that, Zach, is because some of the carriers here in the state, only a handful accept the direct express cards. So that you have a local bank, that's going to open up more options for you there. Okay.
Cool.
And then, yeah, just go into the health and
You
then,
just kind of assume the sale the rest of the way because you had them literally pick out the price and how much. So you're just from there, it's just order taking and getting them qualified, right?
yeah, because I mean, I noticed it with telesales. Like, dude, if they truly don't want to be on the phone with you, or like if they don't want the coverage, it's so easy for them to hang up, tell you F off, or just hang up, or just not answer you, you know?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
something I realized with telesales. Like, dude, these people really gotta want it.
Yeah, because it's super easy for them just to bail. And then so let's wrap with this, right? Like to your point, if you get through the first part, you're gonna be able to close them. How many, people are you looking to talk to a day to make, get through a couple presentations, and how many closes? Like what's a good standard that you think most people could fall within?
I'd say, I mean, if you're constantly buying leads, shoot for anywhere from 5 to 8 presentations a day on the phone.
Cool.
And ever since I started doing that, it's been a game changer because, I might talk to 6 people and close 3. That's 50%, bro. That's terrible. That's failing in school. But like
Yeah.
3 policies a day here, that's a good gig,
You're winning. Yeah. How many calls are you usually making to get through 6, or how many people do you talk to, I guess, to get 6 presentations usually, do you think?
I'd say like full on blown conversations, it could be anywhere from like 12 to 15, I'd say.
Okay, cool. So you got to talk to a bunch of people. You probably got to get told to, kick rocks. So maybe you get 30 people on the phone, have a little conversation with 15, get 6 presentations and close 2 a day. Make a couple hundred dials.
I'm happy with that.
Love it, dude. Well, hey, thank you for everything you're doing. Thanks for sharing, and keep leading out there, man. We appreciate you, and glad to have you on the team, bro. Thank you.
Appreciate you for having me on.
All right. So segment 3 that we're going to do is on personal development. And as we were making the agenda for this, I hesitated to put personal development on here a little bit because I think it's something that people use as a distraction a lot of times, or as a way to prevent themselves from going to work. So I think everything that Easton and I are going to talk about, you should put with the caveat of, if you're like new to business or you're just starting out, if you're making a choice between time spent doing personal development or time spent doing activity that can make you money and generate revenue, you have to do the generating revenue first, right? And you have to spend more of your time working through whatever you're, so like with what we do with sales, like you spend more of your time making phone calls and talking to clients and learning by just doing a lot of activity. And then personal development will help along the way, as in addition to that, during non-income producing hours, right? So for me, what I've started doing to get this in, and I used to, try to figure out time to read, work out, do all these things. Now I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts and don't do any music while I'm working out. And it allows me to get, 2 birds with 1 stone. But the reason I wanted to include this, I recently attended a leadership training at Integrity that was put on by the Ziegler Corporation. And one of the things they talked about on there was this wheel of life assessment, which we'll send out to everyone. But they gave us these cool books. We'll email it out to you. But basically, it was something where you had to do like a personal audit on yourself. And you go through all these different categories. And again, we'll send all this stuff out, so don't feel like you have to write it all down now. But it's physical, financial, spiritual, personal, mental, career, and family. And you basically ranked yourself on a scale of like 1 to 10 with how good you are at each, subset of those categories. And I looked at mine, and my wheel was a little jacked up in some places. Like it was really good in some areas, not so good in other areas. And it made me realize how important it is to be really well-rounded. So I think a lot of these things are things you can work on and should be aware of, but you should not use as it's not working. It's not income producing activities. It's extra credit, but it's not, you don't get to consider personal development time as work time. So want to throw that out there, but we do want to help people become really well-rounded. And I think it's great people, read and do things to better themselves on top of sales training, other things just to help them get better and to think differently and think critically. And we want to recommend a book every time we come on here, a different book that someone's read. So I have Easton on, and we I attended another meeting at Integrity Marketing Group in maybe it was beginning of June. It was their annual partner meeting, and Brian Adams, who if y'all don't know Brian Adams and his story, look it up. I don't want to go through it on here, but he created Integrity Marketing Group, and he recommended a book called Start With Why, which is a really great book. And I recommended it to our top people to read it as well, because Brian recommended it. And I think, I'm like, okay, Brian's in charge. If he recommends something, it's got to be pretty good. So I'm just going to recommend it to our guys so I don't mess it up. But I'd love, Easton, for you to share 1 or 2 takeaways. And then, I think encourage people, like I'm just encouraging people to go ahead and read this stuff and to, learn as we're learning and get better as we're getting better, because we're all trying to get better along the way. So if you have a couple takeaways from the books, things you've read, and maybe any, changes you've made to including this stuff, physically, mentally, whatever you're doing to help yourself be a more well-rounded person, I'd love for you to share.
Well, thanks, dude. So I wrote down a couple of different notes that I've got from the book so far. So I've got like a little bit left to go on it. One thing that we've talked about before is like routine for me has always been really important. And I think that there's a balance about the routine. Like if your routine takes you from 5 o'clock in the morning to noon before you're allowed to start working, I don't think that that's a good routine to have in place long-term, because I think you're losing a lot of time getting distracted by, I've got to follow my routine. So having some kind of like base routine and like, why are you doing that routine? They didn't talk about maybe that as much in the book, but if it all starts with why, like, why do you do the things that you do in the morning? Like I do my morning routine because I figured out that's what helps me get started, keeps my energy higher throughout the day. I feel better when I do it. So like I do a couple of things every single day, and it started incorporating this reading or listening to audiobooks while I'm exercising instead of getting through like a new album or listening to something that's going to pump me up all the time, like having a dual focus, kind of, again, 2 birds, 1 stone. So the book, and it's stuff that we have talked about, and it's cool that it comes from such a really high level. Simon, is it Sinek that wrote it?
Yeah.
So the first one, he talks about companies run into trouble when they lose a sense of why, like as a whole. So you can see that in organizations when you're just doing things to accomplish a what, like I would like to get this thing, without like, why do you want that thing? Or like, why is it important for you to do this, instead of like, hey, just do this because. So you see a lot of like, I don't know if you call it burnout maybe, but if you're always just doing it for what's and there's no purpose of why behind your actions, like why do you get on the phone at 7:30 instead of just like, hey, this is what people have been doing for this long and it works, but they don't have a sense of why it's important to do for them necessarily.
Yeah.
So as an organization, I think it's important to make sure that you have a direction as a company on like why you want to accomplish something. And that starts with like figuring out on an agent standpoint, why is it important to you? Why do you want to do this job? We talk about that literally all the time when we're talking to brand new guys coming on, is why do you think that this is a good fit for you, and what are you willing to do to go through that? Like it has to be something more than just an object or a possession that you're chasing. So he talked about that a lot in the book, what I thought was pretty awesome. And then teams focused on what often fail, while those that start with a why are capable of extraordinary achievements. Again, maybe a pretty similar touch point, but it's pretty crazy what like Sean has been able to build, because why? It was important to him to try to get the highest paid sales force in the business. And he wanted to do that because he himself struggled at a lower, contract when he was at his old company. So for him, it was like, why is this important to me? Because it's important for him to watch others succeed and not just go a certain direction by himself, which is something that we can take too. And you've done a great job with our group is, hey, this was the path given to me. So why it's important for you to continue to bring people in is because you owe it to the next group to figure out who else can you help, change their situation and give them an additional opportunity. So you are capable of a lot more if you have an enormous built why, and then you can kind of always have that to default on when you're going through stuff.
Yeah. And I think, and what we'll do right after this is we'll just go right into the business building one, because this book is really like how to build a business and how to build an effective agency. So we normally do that as a separate segment on this, but we're just going to roll right into it. But the couple of things I took away from the book too, and then we can kind of transition about how they can affect business, is the first one is like the path to having good, loyal, either customers or agent is not through manipulation. It's through doing the right thing for people no matter what, right? And so the example that they gave, and they kind of parlays into one other thing, is like people buy what you do, or people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? So the example they gave a lot was like Apple. was second to market with a lot of things. Like there was Zune, and they came out with the little Zune thingy. That was the pre-iPod, right?
Yep.
And they gave all these, like, it has X amount of gigabytes and this and that. And then Apple came out with the iPod, and we're like, you can carry 1,000 songs in your pocket, right? And so I think when we're all building our business or when we're serving clients, like one of the first things that I noticed when I started working with FFL was everyone said, like, did you help that family? Not did you make that sale, right? So I think it's really important to always revert back to that and understand that what we're doing, like if you get really good at something, no matter what it is, the money will follow. But you have to get really good and do it for the right reason. So if you're recruiting people, you have to be recruiting people with the intention to train them how to sell so that they can change their lives, so they can provide for their family, so they can change, maybe leave a legacy, whatever they want to do, make a bunch of whatever they want to do. You have to be recruiting for that reason, right? Same thing on the sales side. Like you have to be going out there and be getting really, really good at explaining to people, hey, this is, what your situation looks like without insurance. Here's how this problem solves it. And do it for the reason of helping them and serving them, not so you can make a sale or not make a sale. And so I think that's a big part of this I took from it. And they talked about, the other thing was like, you don't have to be the smartest or the best, which we've talked about for a long time. So they gave the example of the Wright brothers, and then I forget the other one. But there was a guy who was funded like heavily by the government grants funding, had all this money. And the Wright brothers owned like a bicycle shop with a bunch of people that didn't graduate high school. And they figured out how to fly first. And they said that the reason they figured out how to fly first is because their goal was to make a flying machine that could help people transform the way that they travel. And the other guy's like goal was to just be the first person and have the notoriety for figuring out how to fly. And as soon as the Wright brothers figured it out, the other guy, who I'm sure someone will comment the name in here, or Easton can look it up real quick while I'm stumbling through this. But the other guy, as soon as they figured out how to fly first and recorded the first flight, he completely stopped trying to go after it and trying to make a better plane or whatever, because he didn't care about that. He just wanted to be the first one. So I think it's really important to understand people know why you do what you're doing. And so when you're translating this into, wanting to build a business, I think you should tell people why you do what you do. And for me, for a long time, I didn't share this stuff at all with people, but I do what we do because I wanted to build a business that was going to be something that was, sustainable, where I could actually be serving people, because that was a big deal to me. Like I knew if I wanted to build a business, I wanted to be putting people in a better position. And I've been through things in life. Did you find the name on there?
Sam Langley.
Oh yeah, Sam Langley. Yep. So don't be a Sam Langley, right? But so like for me, building a business was because I'd been through things in life, and I'd seen, I don't want to go too far into detail in the story right now, just for the sake of time, but been through some health stuff with family and have seen what it looks like to have to choose between work and family. And I just never wanted to have to choose between those things. And I wanted to help people I knew be in a good financial situation and work for themselves, and not have to be told when to come in, out of work, and when they want to take time off to spend time with their family, kids, whatever. It's like, that's why I wanted to do it. And I think whatever your why is, why you want to build a business, how much you like helping people, whatever it is, you should be willing to tell people and share your story, because people will want to follow you if they understand why you're doing it. If all you do is tell people you sell insurance and you can help make some money, there's nothing, that's pretty shallow, and no one will follow that. And then the last thing is that they mentioned in there is like the human desire to belong influences buying decisions. And I think that is, if you're someone who's building a business, it's important to understand that. Like, you have to do a really good job of building good relationships with, you don't have to be everyone's best friend, but build good relationships with people you're in business with, maintain those relationships, and don't take them for granted, and don't abuse them, right? Because it's way easier. It takes a long time to build a good, trusting relationship, and then it's really easy to ruin it, right? Like a really dumb and probably terrible example that I shouldn't give, but I'm going to anyways, is like, if you're married for 30 years and then you cheat on your wife, like, that's probably over, right? If it was my wife, it'd be over. So, but it took 30 years to build up to that trust level, and you can ruin it in a second, right? So if you're in business with people and it goes good for a really long time, just remember, like, one crazy outburst or one time where you do someone wrong can completely ruin that relationship. So make sure you're, thinking through and taking things from a 10,000 foot view, and building a long-term relationship, and understanding that, people want to belong, make people feel like they belong, part of your organization. And then on the sales side, like, that's how you close people, right? Hey, everyone, Easton, in your situation does this for this and this and this reason. So, which one of these do you want to do? Because people want to belong. And so you have to make sure you understand that you're making people belong, be part of the community. And like we talked about in the intro, like that's why doing the cruise thing, I think is such a big deal for FFL. I think if you're, wanting to build a team, you have to build that culture and that core, and make sure everyone knows that they belong, and don't be weird, don't be cliquey, don't only hire certain type of people. Like just hire and work with people that are similar to you or that can fit in with your vision, and work with them and build the relationships with them. So, Easton, as far as goes building a business, you guys have been doing a lot of things like that, like the lock-ins and all these sort of things. Is there anything that you took from this book, or that you've just changed in general, that's helped you as far as building a business goes recently?
Well, I think just spending, more and more time getting to know everybody that you work with instead of just like the easy connections. For you and I think right away we were pretty similar. Like, hey, we had different career paths, and then we ended up finding this thing, and like we both sucked really bad at the beginning. So it was like really relatable. You were ex-athlete, so was I. So we just had like a lot more common ground than I'm necessarily going to have with, like Yvette's a great example. Like, dude, she's a mom with 4 kids and a successful husband who like beats people up part-time for a living, and like, comes from a much different like upbringing than I did. But I know why it's important to Yvette for her to go out and win big, because I spent time getting to know her and understanding, like, dude, it's just important for her to be really successful part-time so she can do extra stuff for her kids, as an example. So instead of just doing that once, this was kind of like, hey, don't forget that you have more than one person that's different from you on your team that you can like get to know and start to build better relationships if you can understand why it is so important to them. Everybody's looking for different things. Somebody's why could be, hey, I just want to be able to like help my sister make their car payment. So this is going to provide a small enough income that I can help do good for my family member. It's not necessarily that like, hey, I want, to get this to a spot where I could technically never work again. Everybody has different stuff that they're looking for. And so I've just been trying to slow down with a lot of the, new agents that we're bringing in and understand their entire picture and learn some of the stuff that they've gone through that we can tie into, hey, this is why you can get through it here, because you've been through so much worse outside of like getting a few no sales and having some difficult weeks. So I've been trying to do a lot more of that and be a lot slower getting to know people on a, a little bit deeper level, so that you can have more reason to help them and then bring them back to like, hey, you can get through this because you've already done it in a much harder setting.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it's better to go deep and build deep relationships with, 5 people than it is to have a really shallow relationship with like 50 people. Because then you can pour everything into those 5 people, and then they can pour into the next 5 people, and you can, really build a depth of knowledge there, right? But if you're just trying to just churn people over and over and over again, bring people in, that's never going to work, right? And that's what we did well early, lost it for a little bit, and that's what we're doing well again, is like building good relationships, that take a lot of time to build, but that's how you help people be productive, profitable producers, which is what we care about. So I appreciate it, dude. Do you have anything else you want to wrap up with, or anything that you can relate to building a business that you want to share with everyone before we wrap this one up today?
This is it so far, dude. That's all I got to share today.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you all, and we'll see you on for the next segment. All right, this is going to be our IUL and annuity segment. Every other week, we're going to get on and talk about a bunch of things, including, how we can add sales in the IUL and annuity in the simple retirement solution sector. And I have Brian Turner with me today. We're going to go over a couple quick tips, and in the next 10 minutes, a couple things that he does to, help write these cases. And he's been issuing, probably about 30 families helped a month in IUL business pretty consistently over the last 6 months. So first thing, Brian, I guess, is if you can give everyone just like, if you were in an elevator with someone for a minute and they asked like, hey, like what's an IUL? Like how would you explain it in a way that's super simple for agents and clients to understand?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Zach, for having me on. I think the first thing is just understanding, number one, it's not an investment. It's a life insurance policy. So I always want to make sure that people understand that. And basically the way that we set them up, there's a couple different ways that you can, but I always tell people you kind of look at it as a financial Swiss Army knife. Sean Ruggiero said that, and I took that from him. And basically, we're setting them up typically for somebody who's trying to earn interest on their money. We're kind of re-engineering it to where you have minimum death benefit possible, which basically just means the smallest cost of insurance possible, so that you can then park a little bit of extra cash in there that you have, throw in some extra money on top of that can accumulate. And then that money that's, not going towards the cost of insurance has the ability to earn interest. And that interest is tax-free because it's all within a tax-advantaged life insurance environment. So,
Got it. And then as far as people you're looking for, and we've done some things with leads, which if people have questions on that, they could probably reach out to Sammy, would probably be the best person, Sammy at ffl-capital.com. But like, what's the ideal client for an IUL? Like, it's not everyone, right? It's not the 75-year-old person who's had health conditions. So,
right.
Like, who are you looking for your ideal IUL client?
Yeah, typically the right client for an IUL is somebody, first of all, who is healthy. If they're younger, that's better. So I would say, below 50 is ideal. But really anybody is, as long as they have the ability to allocate and properly fund enough, money on a monthly basis or yearly towards a policy. Because we're going to go ahead and do whatever we can to make sure that the cost is, again, the smallest, the minimal cost possible as, we're supposed to be doing. So honestly, the healthier, the younger, the better. But anybody that's like looking for a way to basically store their money somewhere else other than the bank, I would say it would be a good fit. Got it.
And then can you kind of go through what your process looks like for, say you get a lead in, or you come across a client who would be a good fit for that? Like, and you're doing it all virtually, right?
Yeah.
So can you go through kind of what the process looks like from the initial call to how do you actually get them through the process, show an illustration, and then, submit an application with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So really my main focus is to ask certain questions so that I can understand where they're at. So obviously we want to make sure that we kind of knock out the preliminary questions for underwriting, make sure that they're, like I said, healthy and that they're not, scraping by each month, that they have extra income, because we want to set our clients up for success. So once I kind of have that understanding, then I'll just explain a little bit more about what the product is. I'll say, hey, listen, I'm going to do my best based on what you told me with your goal of either getting, an efficient permanent life insurance policy. Then we might structure it with a little more death benefit in that case. Or on the other hand, most of the clients, I'd say about 90% of the people that we talk to, they're looking for something where, like I said, they can park their cash somewhere where it can earn interest and grow tax-free. So once I understand that, I'm going to say, hey, so typically the way that we're setting these up is with this minimum death benefit, maximum cash value structure. So I want you to imagine two buckets. Basically, you have your first bucket, which is your cost of insurance bucket, and then you have your other bucket, which is your cash value bucket. Cash value, I'll just explain, is essentially just a insurance savings account that can earn interest higher than an average savings account in your bank account would. And then I'll say, hey, so every time you go to make a premium payment, we have some of your premium payment going towards your cost of insurance. That's a good thing. That's so that it's, grows non-taxable income and earns interest. And that's also so that you can leverage what's called OPM, other people's money, which is essentially just the ability to take loans from the insurance carrier against your policy or the amount of cash value that you've overfunded voluntarily into the policy, so that you can then use your money, have it earning interest as if you never took that money out. Because even though you take out money, you're actually borrowing from the carrier. And as a result, that money that you paid into it still stays in there. Meaning if you had $100,000, you took 20 grand out, you're still going to have $100,000 in there earning interest. So that's how you get uninterrupted compound interest. And you also get to leverage OPM, other people's money. So this is how we're going to pay ourselves first as individuals and be able to earn double interest. And then from there, the more you fund it, the better, the earlier, and the quicker. But you do have the ability eventually to stop paying into this policy. So let me just kind of go through an illustration with you. I ask the client a lot of times on the spot, I'll say, hey, do you have time to jump on Zoom? If not, we'll reschedule a call. Then when I'm on a Zoom call with them, I can go through an illustration with them, walk them through the more specifics of the numbers. And this is where I like to go into more detail on how does your money actually earn interest in a life insurance policy. How are people, being their own bank with life insurance? Well, essentially, when you're using an IUL, that money is tied to an index. So I'll go through the illustration that they've said, hey, I can allocate this much per month. I know they're healthy by this point. They don't have anything on their record that's gonna, cause an adverse decision and put them in a bad spot where they won't be able to get simplified issue products. And I'll start going through you know, what indexes are, and describing the different indices that are offered through different carriers, so we can kind of compare, hey, you know, this company versus this one. You know, National Life Group, they've been around since 1848. So, you know, they have 175 years of history, whereas, you know, other company XYZ, you know, they might offer something different. Okay. So once they have an understanding of what interest is, how the interest grows, I'll explain the difference between participation rate and a cap, saying, you know, hey, if you had a 10% gain in the market and you're tied to that index and you have a 100% participation rate, well, then if you don't have a cap on that, you're going to get that full 10%. If you have like National Life's current participation rate at 215%, then you're going to have, you know, 21.5% growth versus just 10%. So then I make sure that they understand the difference between what participation rates are, and then, hey, you know, there are index strategies out there where you have a cap. So cap is just like what it sounds like. It's a ceiling on how much growth that your policy can get in one particular time, and it's all on an annual point-to-point basis. Do you have any questions? They answer, you know, yes or no, or how do I take my money out? And I'll go through explaining that as well.
Got it. And then typically from there, you're just showing them an illustration and jumping right into the application if you can, right?
Yep, that's pretty much it. I don't really hard close it. It kind of just is providing the right information so that they can make an educated decision.
Cool. And then what are some resources that you've looked at or that you've watched to learn how to sell these products the way you have, that you if other people are interested in this, you know, they want to add this, where should they go to learn more and to do a deeper dive and understand how these work better?
Yeah. I would say FFL AMS. If you haven't like registered to get an account, that's a great place to start. You can reach out to me as well, or it's always a good idea to go directly to the carrier. If they can't answer a question, then try and book a call with somebody on their team. They have advanced market team as well, whichever company you're talking to, so that you can get the right answer and make sure that you're, you know, relaying the correct information to your client. If I ever don't know a question, like we get, you know, complicated questions like, how do you set up a trust, or do I need to get a trust set up beforehand or after? Does it matter? You know, so I'll call the carrier. I'll say, honestly, I don't know, but I have a lot of people on our team that back us up, that I can get that question answered for you correctly.
Yeah, and the AMS team can help a ton too with that, to the Ask a Specialist. And then we have our retirement boot camp that Sammy can put on in the chat here on the screen. So awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. I know you've taught a lot of people how to do this stuff, so I appreciate everything you do for the team.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, for our last section of this today, we're going to go over, you know, health insurance and ancillary products. And this is really because we want to make sure that people are well-rounded agents and as profitable as possible. So like you talked about with the IUL sales, it's another way to be a more well-rounded, you know, complete agent and offer your clients everything, which we want to do. And especially now that we have the partnership with Integrity, we can offer every single product. And most of the products in the country run through them and were designed by people that are now a part of Integrity. And that's kind of the case with the Affordable Choice product with Manhattan Life. So I'm here with Bailey today. We're going to go through quickly, you know, kind of what Affordable Choice is, you know, how the Manhattan Life product can be used, and kind of where it fits into our book of business. So Bailey, you've been selling this for a little while, and it's a great thing to add on because it's something that people need, they keep, the persistency is really good on it, and the comp is pretty good on it for health. It's really good for health, right? So for like, who are the clients you're looking for? Because I think the best way our agents can kind of capitalize on this is go like, okay, I have, you know, X, Y, and Z client, like who should I introduce this to? So what are you looking for someone who would be a good fit for the Affordable Choice product?
Well, first of all, I think that the clients that we're targeting are going to be a lot of 1099 business owners, right? People that own a lot of their own businesses, that have employees.
Yeah, like plumbers, truck drivers, electricians, stuff like that, kind of, right?
Exactly. People
insurance agents.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I think what Galen Hendricks was saying about it was that it was kind of designed for like farmers and stuff like that who work for themselves, and maybe they're not making, you know, $700,000 a year, or they're not making enough to have like a major medical plan, but this is a good fit. So why don't you go through and kind of explain for the Affordable Choice, like what exactly the product does and why it makes sense for those people who are kind of like middle, like middle class, like upper middle class, where they don't have it provided through their work, and they maybe don't want to spend $2,000 a month on health insurance, right? This is kind of a good alternative for those type people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest selling factors with Manhattan to our clients is going to be that Manhattan has the plan with Affordable Choice has no deductible, neither no co-insurance. So that's going to be one of the biggest selling factors. But like you said, in regards to like the clientele, our truck drivers, business owners, for example, our truck drivers are people that are always on the road in different cities and states that they're not from. So that is important for one of Manhattan's biggest benefits is going to be like their teledoc, right? Meaning that they can call into any doctor's office in any city or state that they're from and ask for the prescription. They'll just write them one as long as it's non-life threatening. Another huge advocate is going to be like the health advocate, right? If they ever have like a medical bill that exceeds the amount of $400, that will send a big red flag to the insurance companies, meaning they'll get on the phone for them. Nothing that they have to initiate, but again, make sure that all the billing is correctly priced and try to even negotiate the bill down. But again, I do find that very big for our, 1099 business employees. When they're on the go and need employees and have businesses in different cities and states, this is applicable to them.
Cool. And then the average premium on this is probably around like $300 to $400 a month.
Yeah,
is that about right?
Average sales about $350, $400. Yes, sir.
Which can save people a lot of money, especially like take the kind of ideal client, like a truck driver, farmer, right? Like they're probably paying $1,000 a month for their health insurance, and if they're in really good health and younger, like they probably don't need major medical necessarily, right? Like this is a good alternative. So you can save them quite a bit of money, by putting them into this product. What are some of the things to look out for as far as underwriting goes? Like what are some things that if you see that your client has, you shouldn't even try to get them this product?
Well, they have like their cheat sheet, right? Which is pretty convenient to the agent where, you can plug in their health condition or medication. It'll tell you if the Affordable Choice will approve them or not. For example, they will approve with diabetes or high blood pressure or cholesterol, but if it's like a combination of the three, they may not. But again, the cool thing about partnering with Manhattan is if they don't get approved with their top product, the Affordable Choice, they have kind of like a fallback program, which is called like their Blue Ribbon, who does accept, multiple health conditions such as cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, whatever that might be.
Got him. And then, so you and Brian Allen and Brian Turner have all been selling this and have been selling quite a bit of it and having good luck with it. So what we're doing is having a lot of people reach out directly to you guys if they want to get started on this and either, go ahead and cross-sell their clients or even just, target clients for this. So they can reach out to you. Would the best way to have them text you?
Yep, absolutely.
What's cell phone number where everyone can reach out to you if they want to get plugged into this and make sure they get contracted?
You can call or text cell phone number 970-261-6693.
Cool. And then as far as contracting goes, if they want to get contracted to sell this, they can reach out to Jordan, so Jordyn at ffl-capital.com, or Megan, MEGHAN at ffl-capital.com. And they'll help them get contracted, and then they'll link them up with you and Brian, and you guys can help them learn how to sell it and learn how the products work.
And one thing that I did want to touch on in regards to like the lead, because again, I came from like the going in homes, buying leads, flying out, going into people's houses. Big transition here, guys. We're doing all like, it's going to be all like over the phone, right? So it's no in-home anymore, which is going to be big. But again, the biggest difference here is going to be like the automated messages that go out. So when I'm not working, messages are going out. So I am kind of working. The lead is very affordable. They are $25 a lead. But again, the biggest thing is when those messages are going out, the client does have the opportunity to self-schedule with the time that is free on my calendar. So again, there are a lot of cool perks with this new product.
Yeah, and so like what Bailey said with that, like, the auto scheduling, all that sort of stuff, get with him. That's what Brian Turner talked about on the IUL sales, and Mahmoud talked about it on the Telesales for final expense. That if you don't have anyone that's helped you setting these things up that are, either Ringy or Go High Level or some sort of CRM to help work for you, like you said, and help you have pre-booked appointments and be more efficient as an agent, reach out to one of these guys and they'll help you out and they'll help you get set up, because our goal is to help all the agents who are watching this and who want to get better to be as efficient as possible and to be able to spend as much time, doing income producing activities, which is selling, and not as much time prospecting. So we have a lot of these tools. That's why we're going to start doing this call, so that we can share best practices and show you which people can help you out with it. So Thank you everyone for tuning in today. We're right at an hour, so I appreciate the time and patience. And we'll break this up, send it out into different sections so you can watch it back. And if you want to reach out to any of the people who are on here, you can find them in Slack. You can reach out to me and I'll get you their number. And we appreciate you for tuning in today.